net neutrality and how it impacts you? Net neutrality is the idea that all data should be treated equally regardless of the creator. That may seem a bit confusing, but it actually has more impact to your day-to-day life than you would think. I've been keeping up with net neutrality for the past year because it's getting a lot of political traction, and I think it's an important issue we have to pay attention to. And we're all students here. We all need the internet to succeed, to do well, to study, to learn. Big corporations like Time Warner and Comcast Cable believe that by striking down net neutrality, it'll be best for all Americans, but they are absolutely wrong. So in my speech, I'm going to cover what is the internet. I mean, we all use it, but we don't know exactly what it kind of is. And what is net neutrality, and finally, how it impacts all of us and the issues that net neutrality, the internet neutrality can present. So what is the internet? We all use it. Some of you are probably on your phones right now using Facebook, Instagram, or something, but I would too if I could. But the internet was born with the basic idea to share information. It started around the late 1960s. There were physicists at CERN who needed to share information from one another. So they had two computers, and they're like, well, we need to get information from this computer to another computer. They're like, well, let's connect them. It's not that simple, but in its truest form, that's what the internet is, just a connection of computers between each other. And to the creation of ARPANET, the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, and what that was is just a connection of big universities and companies to share information together. That was in 1969, and it was actually developed during the Cold War. In the case of a nuclear attack, communications wouldn't be totally rendered useless. So with early systems of the internet, what would happen, or versions of the internet, is you'd have a central unit where all the information would have to go through. And if there was an attack, you could just take out the central unit, and then now there's a chunk of information gone, and they can't communicate completely. With ARPANET, you would have computers set up to where if you took out one, it wouldn't matter because the information would still be there. Again, this is an incredibly simplified version of this, but that's how it works. And in 1972, the first email was developed, or the first email was sent. And until the 90s, the internet was mostly used for scientific, engineering, business reasons. It was until the development of web browsers like Mosaic, Netscape, Internet Explorer that really made the internet more appealing to everyday people like us. And then eventually with the development of search engines such as Google, Ask, Yahoo, that really also made the internet more appealing. And finally, social media and instant messaging that really launched the internet into the mainstream around the early 2000s. So, what is net neutrality? Like I said, net neutrality is the idea that all data should be treated equally regardless of the creator. And that may seem a bit weird, but say you want to use Facebook, and it's working fine on your internet connection, it's not lagging, it's not doing anything, but say you want to use Twitter now, you can consider it a direct competitor to Facebook, but for some reason, Twitter is a lot slower and doesn't load as good as Facebook. That makes you not want to use Twitter anymore, that makes you stick to Facebook. That's the idea of net neutrality, that you can't treat that data differently. So, and there's an example of this where it has already happened. Last year, net neutrality was actually stricken down for about a year, or for a few months. And this happened last year. So what happened was Comcast actually made the streaming rates of Netflix a lot slower, and they forced Netflix into paying them more, just so they can stream their data at a reasonable rate. Did you guys tell when Comcast made Netflix pay up? It's right here. In February, you can see that in the data. January, they paid, and the internet, the streaming rate instantly went up. If you guys didn't notice, that's kind of bullying behavior, right? You have this big company like, you better pay up, or we're not going to stream your information as fast as other information. And so Netflix paid up, but guess who had to pay the money that And this was pointed out by, this graph is from Netflix.com, but this was pointed out by John Oliver on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. So, of course, there are bigger issues with net neutrality other than just this. Net neutrality is really this thing to keep everything fair. It's meant to be treated equally. And the thing is, there's a proposed merger between Time Warner and Comcast Cable, and it's going to create an oligopoly. An oligopoly is a group of companies that own the majority of that market share. Together, they would own 60% of the market. That encourages anti-competitive in business, anti-competition business. And as we all know, as Americans, we appreciate competition. That's why we're in college, to get a competitive degree so we can compete in the job market. And not only that, but a monopoly and oligopolies, they tend to treat their customers worse because we have no other choice but to be their customers. So they're going to treat us worse by raising prices, giving us crappy customer service. Comcast was rated the worst company in 2014 and 2012, but they don't care because they own most of the market share. And we know, living here in Albuquerque, we know that Comcast is really the only option. Sure, we have other options, but they're not as good as Comcast yet, unfortunately. And that's mostly because Comcast doesn't allow that to happen. And not only is this an issue from a financial standpoint, it's also an issue from a political standpoint. Some of the top lobbyists in 2014 were actually communication companies, cable companies. And that's really saying something, because doesn't it kind of freak you out that the company that provides you your favorite TV show is paying more money than a company that makes missiles, jet fighters, and destroyers? It's a bit, it creates an uneasy feeling. You can see here, the National Cable Telecommunication Association, Comcast Corporation, Google, those are all above Boeing, General Electric, Lockheed Martin, CVS Health. It's pretty interesting. So, we've talked about what the internet is, what net neutrality is, and how it impacts us. And the internet was designed to share information freely and quickly, and we should do our best to keep it that way. And these corporations are trying to end that. But fortunately, my speech has become irrelevant because last week the FCC actually passed, last Thursday when I was supposed to present, the FCC passed a new rules treating the internet as a Title II, which means a utility. So from now on, the internet is going to be treated like a utility from a political standpoint, which will make it a more fair playing field for everyone, and we'll get better services, hopefully. But it's still important to know what the issues are and how we can fight them.